Hey everyone, welcome to Phoenix Talks. We're on episode 27, which is just amazing to
It
me
is.
that we've been going this long. I'm Micah Brindlewolf Grant, and this is my lovely co-host, Diane DiBiase. Say hello, Diane, so they can
Hi,
see you.
everybody.
There we go. All right. I'm going to quickly bring up the chat room on my computer so that I can glance away from the screen every once in a while, see what's going on.
Fabulous. And I hope everybody has questions this time.
I look forward to seeing them in the chat. Also give everybody just a second, but for those watching the replay, today's episode is about overgeneralizing the limited. And
Yes.
it sounds like a bizarre topic. Like, what the hell is he talking about, the limited? What I'm talking about is limited beliefs and how many times they can be a downfall when we're having a conversation or when we're talking about things that are going on in the world. And what brought this on was a post that I saw on Facebook where somebody used the word everyone in something that they were complaining about. And it was just one of those, oh my God, we need to talk about this.
We do. We absolutely do. This is a huge conversation. With me, it's most especially hearing when people do that talking about themselves, like, oh, I'm never gonna, blah, 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 blah.
Right.
Whoa.
I mean, it's like in the promo where I said, if you find yourself using words and phrases like everyone, everywhere, always, never, I'll never,
Right. Right.
it,
Exactly.
it's an overgeneralization
So
that you find
why
yourself trapped in.
Yes. So why is that not healthy? Let's talk about why it's disruptive and isn't exactly what you think it's doing for you. It's falls under, to me, it falls under the category of um, exaggeratory statements that are not reflective of the truth, the full truth. There might be a portion of that in there that's true, and in that case, we're not being specific with what it is. And then by overgeneralizing, we actually create limitations because now we've just brushstroked
Yeah,
most of everything that falls under that category in every aspect of our lives.
right. And it was something that I became kind of self-aware about several years ago because I used to do the same thing.
Me too.
and,
Yep.
I think that a lot of people find themselves doing that, especially when they're in it,
Right.
when they're doubting themselves, they're feeling low, they're in a depression, they're sick, whatever the case is, feeling isolated. No one's around.
Right.
Well, that's an illusion that we
Right.
create because we have that feeling that no one's around, and then we start to get into a mental spin and completely forget all lyrics of every song that we've ever known when we're asked to sing it. It's that kind of thing. Because it's like, well, who can you reach out to? I don't know. I don't have anyone.
Well, the truth is, with that, I'm going to talk about this specific topic because this is a big piece in people's healing journey. Because one of the biggest issues for most people is asking for help, because asking for help if you're coming from trauma, has always come with consequences. And
Yeah.
so, when you overgeneralize, you are putting yourself in that situation. Specifically to the topic of I am alone, is you're self-isolating because you're safe. You subconsciously feel safer when you're isolated from other people. No one else could hurt you if you're isolated. So that's something where if you're overgeneralizing, you are literally actively self-isolating if you're overgeneralizing about being alone. So do a check-in with yourself, like, okay, why do I feel this way? Because is this really true? Am I absolutely alone? No, there's people in my life. I mean, if the shit really hit the fan, obviously there's somebody that I would be able to count on. I mean, for most people, that's not true for everybody. That's the reality that we live in. It's not the truth for everybody, but I assume for the audience that we're speaking to, there is at least one person somebody could turn to in
Right.
their life. The question is, why aren't you allowing yourself to be vulnerable with that one person until you are at the extreme and desperately need the help? So
Because of the limiting belief of burdenship.
that that was created because you never had help from a safe person in your trauma. So that help came with consequences, and you were shamed and guilted and whatever else
Right.
traumatized you. So fast forward, we're not living in yesterday and tomorrow hasn't happened yet. What's happening right now?
Right.
Is that valid in this moment? And why is it not valid to feel that way in this moment? And that's why, you know, it, the overgeneralizations are limiting.
I mean, there's a reference that comes to mind that someone that I know experienced when it comes to not being in a safe place when they need the help. And there was a fall, there was hurt. The person that was there to help was triggered because they were running late to work or whatever it was already. And this created an extra burden that they didn't want. And oh my God, I can't believe you just fell because now you're going to make me late. And unfortunately, this is something that a lot of people have to deal with when it
Yeah,
comes to trying to get over being a burden, where somebody has made them, somebody that they trusted, somebody that was very close to them, made them
right.
feel this way, or they allowed them to make them feel that way. But you know, that's a whole nother topic.
Yes.
So when it comes to reaching out for help, it's almost like, well, I can't bother them because, and then all of these excuses start to come,
Right.
and then we start limiting ourselves. Meanwhile, we might have a major cut that needs to be
Right.
addressed, and we can't take care of it ourselves.
Right. Right. So that's that piece of the I'm alone thing. There's so much to these overgeneralizations. There
There
really is.
really is, and most and just about all of them stem from the limiting beliefs that we've taken on.
Absolutely. And that's the point. The point is when you speak, think to yourself, is it true? Is it relevant? Is it kind? And that's true for even when you're thinking and reflecting upon yourself and your own experience and how you're affected by these overgeneral statements. I'm guilty of it. Okay, here's an overgeneral statement that I overuse way too much. I'm always tired. No, I'm not.
No, you're not.
I might get burnt out quickly because of my neurospiciness, but I am not always tired. And saying that ends up making me feel more tired.
Right. I'm always a klutz. I'm always late. I'm always typing the wrong thing. I'm always saying the wrong thing.
So maybe the conversation is that when you make overgeneralizations like that, and they will not pass those three gates because that's impossible in most cases. Um,
And for the new listeners, what are those three gates?
okay, so is it true? Is it relevant? Is it kind? And I suggest them to be in that order because it may be relevant, but it may not be kind.
Right.
You know, so it's true, relevant, kind. So those are the gatekeepers for me. So when I catch myself saying something, no, that's not really true. I'm self-correcting. I think I did it in this conversation twice already. I catch myself.
And it's that easy.
Right. The
It's
bottom line is
so easy for us
compassion.
to overgeneralize.
Right. Overgeneralize. So where are you not having compassion for yourself or the situation?
Right.
What is it leading to? What is it creating? Is it that overgeneralization creating an impatience? Oh, now you're going to make me late to work. And that person feels a certain kind of way, but now that other person is overgeneralizing their tardiness onto someone else as well,
Right.
which doesn't show compassion
No.
for the circumstances. So the question to ask, is it true? Is it relevant? Is it kind? And is there compassion here? think that's a good follow-up question.
Exactly. Because, yeah, I'm just going to leave it at that.
Okay, so should we start talking about the I can'ts?
Oh, once I brought it up, the thoughts started flooding in. Who was it that said, I believe it, Henry Ford said it, and Jack Canfield stole it, which is fine because anybody can say it. If you believe you can, if you believe you can't. Either way, you're right.
Yeah, that's a
It's
great
that
point.
simple.
It is that
That
simple.
simple.
It really is. So
I
what?
can't pick this up. I can't figure this out.
Mhm.
You're right. You can't.
Yeah, let's elaborate on that. So when you speak in the generals in that way, in a negative connotation towards yourself, um, and placing that limitation on you. Wait, I lost my train of thought. It went somewhere else. Darn it, ADHD.
It'll come back.
Sorry. It'll come back. But ultimately, the idea of the I can't is if you believe it, you will be it. So, you know how people say fake it till you make it? I say don't fake it. Believe that you can do it instead. Stumble through getting used to what it feels like and learning how to do it the way that's right for you, but believe you can do it.
Right.
What I think that's tied to is expectations. So the I can'ts usually are tied to expectations. What is it that you're expecting from yourself that's unrealistic? And is that compassionate?
Right. And it's an interesting metaphor that came to mind. I was watching a Station 19 episode, and one of the main storylines or rescues for that particular episode was somebody who believed that he was going to be able to fly.
Mhm.
Well, humans aren't built naturally to be able to hover themselves above the ground. It's physically impossible for us too. So the overgeneralization of no, you can't fly
Mhm.
is true. However, we can.
Yes.
All we need, all we need is to board an airplane,
Yeah.
and then we're flying. It's a
Right.
matter of perspective on what you can and can't do. And it's a matter of what you decide to tell yourself when it comes to the can and can'ts.
Right.
Because there are some things physically not able to do. But that
Right.
doesn't mean that there's not another way to accomplish that. And if it's something that you truly cannot do, okay, what can you? Set aside the limiting belief of can't.
Yes, because you can learn how to if you wanted to. So I think the better statement, if it is something that you decide that you're not interested in doing, is I'm sure I could learn how, but I don't want to.
Right.
Not my cup of tea. Shift it to I can't, from I can't to the other thought process.
Right.
It's all about mind shift, perspective shift. I think everything that we talk about is all about helping you shift your perspective so that you could see it from a different view. And that's how you build your compassion towards yourself, because you really do have to shift your perspective of yourself in a lot of different ways.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not nitpicking on yourself with like, oh, now I can't say certain words. No, it's not that. That's not the point. The point is to reflect on how those thought patterns and words and behaviors might actually be energetically or manifesting wise sabotaging you in some way, and is that actually compassionate towards you, or are you limiting yourself in some way? That's one of the reasons why I kind of made my affirmation for myself that I have on my wall. I am a limitless being of infinite potential,
Right.
because it makes me ask myself, in what way am I limiting myself with what I'm saying?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So we're trying to teach you to be limitless.
And what's amazing is that universally we're all basically manufactured the same way.
Mhm.
All
Mhm.
human beings. All
Right.
human beings have one heart, two kidneys, two eyes, one brain. Could go on, but I'm not going to.
Right.
We're all basically built the same way, universally.
Yes.
We all have the capability of consciousness because of how that universal program.
Right.
And we all have that wonderful, beautiful gift of thought.
Yeah.
And what we decide to do with those thoughts on a conscious, subconscious, universal level decides the reality and the perception of the reality that we live in. And if we take on other people's perception, then we can start limiting ourselves and how we think about ourselves and what we can do or who's there.
I'm gonna pause you right there because you just said something. If we're living by other people's perceptions of us, and that's kind of the origins of the limited speak that we put on ourselves, is we are walking around with other people's limitations. We're wearing other people's clothing that doesn't fit us. So that's a very important statement that you just made, because that is at the core of all limiting beliefs. It's not your limitation, it's someone else's. Why are you wearing it?
Because you've agreed to
it. Why have you agreed to it? So like, this is great. That's a great statement, because you know what? That's the questioning. That's the thought process, and you can answer that question for yourself like Micah just did, and then you'll ask the next question. Okay, so why da-da-da?
I mean, in some studies, like Ruiz, the end result is faith. And that's not just a spiritual base. That's just because faith is something that just is, according to people that you ask. I'm not going to say everyone. I'm not going to overgeneralize, because I know that there are people out there that disagree with that. But a faith doesn't become a faith until you have a belief.
Correct.
And a belief is just something that you think over and over again and agree to. So you have all of these incoming receptions from other people of their perspectives of how things should be and could be, and it has to be this way. And everyone is doing it that way. Why aren't you? And you hear this often enough, and you start looking at it through their eyes, through their perception, through their perspective. And you start saying it to yourself, start thinking it often enough, it becomes a belief. And once that belief is strengthened by your actions and your emotions and how you are acting in the world, then it becomes a faith that you have, and that's even harder to get rid of. If you're wanting to be able to use the word can. How's that for an answer?
There you go. So we're gonna release our limiting beliefs, but we can't do that all at once. No. It doesn't work that way.
No, your brain wouldn't be able to handle it if you released all of the limiting beliefs that are in it. It wouldn't. It would implode.
Right. Well, you don't know what all those limiting beliefs are until they arise. So when you say a general exaggeratory statement, pause yourself and reflect on it. Is this accurate? Like I just made one right now. You can't release them all at once because it doesn't work that way. That's actually accurate, because you really can't. It is a process. Life has to unfold for you. Things have to happen in your experience. You have to be able to connect dots. And then as time goes on, you connect more dots because you see things differently. It's a process of actively shifting your perspective in your experience. There's no light switch for any of this. And no. It does take time and practice and conscious effort. We all fall off the wagon when we get that momentum flowing, because life shows you things that make you like reconnect to certain aspects of that version of you you're trying to get out of. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
You can't let that shift your focus from being authentically aligned with yourself. So again, is it true? Is it relevant? Is it kind? Is there compassion there? Why are you making that exaggeratory statement? Why do you feel that way? The whole nine. You got to walk yourself through it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm being pushed to shift gears a little bit with talking about ever and no one. And no one is ever. I'm never, ever. This isn't ever going to get solved. You can interchange ever, never, doesn't matter. They're almost the same. You're right. If you're saying that about a situation, you're right. Why? Why are you right?
That's what you believe. It's that simple.
And you have faith that it's never or ever going to change.
Right.
You have put a faith in that, and you have given your subconscious programming permission to make sure that you are not going to notice the changes or the overcomable obstacles or the opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
Because, well, I don't need to pay attention to that because we ain't ever getting there.
Right.
You're right. You're right. You're never, and it won't ever.
And that's not too much of a shift, because never and ever have that mentality of can't.
Yep.
And that is a big problem. It is definitely a big problem because of the finality of it. There's so much finality there. It's like your instruction to creation and creator, whoever, whatever you want to call what you praise, your instructions are to limit you completely. And how do you know that, God's not going to be like, oh, damn it, I really wanted to get her to win the lottery. Oh, she had to do it in 5 years from now, not now. But now she's saying never. All right, I guess I'm not gonna.
And all those numbers that I pointed out to her to pay attention to, she just kind of ignored. I handed her the winning lottery ticket, and she just ignored the numbers and didn't go and buy the ticket. Do we know that that's how it works? No.
But energetically speaking, right. It's part of manifesting. I mean, if you go back in history, it's it's what also Jesus was trying to teach. I'm gonna throw that one out there. But it's been in all kinds of books on how to manifest, starting from not from this century. I don't know when it started. I don't know if it was 19th or 20th century, but the reality is like you see now in books and research and it has nothing to do with anything other than the fact that what we put out is what we receive. And that's really what it boils down to. So are you showing yourself compassion? Are you limiting yourself? That's what you're going to receive.
Right. And that statement can also be reversed. You receive what you put out.
Yeah. Exactly.
And if you're putting out nevers and won't ever and can't and isolated everyone, yep, you're right. And that's what you're going to receive.
Right.
And as long as statements are made like no one is ever there. I've talked before in other programs, maybe this one even, but when it comes to like an energetic level of thought or even statement, that when you put out the statement that no one is ever there, drop the pebble, ripple. It's almost like arm's length, keeping away, stay away because I'm dangerous. You won't ever come around and help me, even though I want the help.
Right. Ask and ye shall receive. I think a lot of it is some people who have that can't and never and ever kind of mentality are limited to the perspective that they don't deserve the help.
Right.
They aren't worthy of it. They're not safe. It's all those limiting beliefs. So you kind of have to give yourself a chance. So how do you give yourself a chance? How do you know? How do you trust? I've struggled with this recently myself, and my mentor asked me, Diane, do you believe that you're very intuitive? And I'm like, well, yeah, I've gotten all this feedback and whatever. It's like, so I'm like
Mhm.
telling myself, I'm like, yeah, I am. I know I'm intuitive. She goes, well, why don't you trust yourself? I'm like, my mentor.
Don't you love it when the mentors slap you in the face like that? That happened. Oh,
So,
that happened too.
right. The point is you have to trust yourself enough to discern who's safe to be vulnerable with
Hmm.
and shift your environment by choice.
When we're babies, we don't learn to walk by simply being put on our feet.
Nope. We have help.
We have help, and we learn to crawl. We learn that if we put one hand in front of us and the opposite knee, that we can push simultaneously, and then we do the same thing on the opposite side with the opposite hand and the opposite knee, and then we realize that we can do this, and then eventually this thought starts to travel downwards. Okay, well, I can't survive. I need to be able to reach that, but I can't if I'm always on my hands and knees. I'm just guessing that this is the thought process of babies because I don't know. I don't remember. But seriously, we don't learn to walk until we put one foot in front of the other. And we don't know that what we are limiting ourselves with can be overcome if we're just sitting in our own shit.
Yeah. Okay. So a lot of that stuckness that's in that ever nevers and can'ts and aloneness and generalized negativity is the feeling of I lost my train of thought again. Darn ADHD. It's really hot today, isn't it? It'll come back because I keep going off into three different branches.
It's easy too with this topic.
It'll come back. But all of the branches eventually lead to believing in yourself and trusting yourself and giving yourself an opportunity to shift your environment consciously and intentionally with shifting your thought patterns and behaviors. I forgot specifically what it was gonna tune into one thing. It'll come back later, but generally speaking, it's about that.
When I know this isn't very common anymore, but when you write with a pencil, you're applying it to a piece of paper, you're writing whatever you're writing, lead breaks. Do you just put the pencil down and walk away? No. Unless you don't have, you sharpen it and you pick it up and you use it again. Yeah, it was frustrating. Yeah, it might have caused a small outburst of, some foul words because you had to stop what you were doing and go and sharpen it.
To that, I ask you, I'm gonna pause right there because that's important what you're saying right now. To that, I ask you, why are you not giving yourself the patience and the time for it to unfold at a reasonable pace as it's meant to, without judgment and without shame and resentment towards yourself? Okay, go on.
I mean, even one of the explicatives that might come out when you break the lead on the pencil, damn it, this always happens. Oh, there it is.
Well,
So what? In that case, tell yourself, so what? I pressed too hard.
yes, right. And you just shift your perspective. Mm-hmm.
Life happens.
Right.
The leads break.
Right. And remind yourself when you project outward that frustration and negativity, you're going to receive more broken pencils. Number one, you're not changing what you're doing. And number two, you're asking for it by asking for it.
Right. And what's crazy to continue that, I mean, how many people have tried to sharpen their pencil on a dull sharpener and they wind up with a nub?
Mhm.
Because it threw you off balance. And this sounds silly, It sounds silly as I'm saying it, I don't care. But when you are that frustrated and you are holding the pencil, and I'm going back to the cranks, the manual cranks, where you would have to put in and you would have to hold just a certain way so that it wouldn't over sharpen and continue to break the lead. This is what's going on inside when you are giving yourself permission to hold on to all of these limiting beliefs.
Right, right.
So don't hold the pencil so hard.
Right.
When you're writing, when you're sharpening.
Right.
Because that pencil is you. It's an extension of you and what you're expressing and what you're putting out into the world. And if you want to continue to break it and have to refocus and resharpen, okay. But at the same time, life is going to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Life is going to throw in different situations that throw you off, that break your pencil lead.
So use all those overgeneralizations as an opportunity to learn about yourself. Those are good things to be consciously aware of. Catch yourself making a generalized statement.
Mm-hmm.
Is it true? Is it relevant? Is it kind? In what way is it true? I'm sure it's true to some degree. In what way? You felt that way. That's valid. In what way specifically?
Right.
Tune into that. Is that true in all aspects of life? No. Don't limit yourself like that.
I mean, one of my favorite overgeneralizations, and I use favorite in quotes, is culture. And many times we will overgeneralize a race
Mm-hmm.
because of things that we've been told, things that we've experienced. And it limits us from being able to see beyond tone, speech, language, action, heart. And when we overgeneralize just because of any of those things, sure, we can say you're a racist. You're not. Most people whose ears that this will fall on aren't racist.
Mm-hmm.
It's just an overgeneralization, which winds up limiting the potential experiences that could be had.
Yes.
We are all brown. None of us are white.
I've heard different shades of wheat, which is very accurate.
And my God, if I hear those people, it just
Yes, it's very grating, isn't it?
just do me a favor, go to a chalkboard with your nails and just because it's the same feeling. Those people who,
And this is true for politics and for religion too. Every piece of culture has this limiting projected whatever ick because it's very limiting and it's not healthy for you as an individual to thrive where you're told no, not going to happen, can't, too much, too little, too this, too that. It's exhausting. So you really have to be in charge of yourself and your own thought process and your own belief system within, and really maintain that belief system and try to maintain that level of understanding for yourself as time goes on through every experience. Ultimately, everyone's limited to their own perspective. You still get to decide for yourself what your beliefs are, regardless of what you've been told to believe. A lot of times I feel like these generalizations come from belief systems that are already starting out inherently completely limited.
right.
So you have to decide, is that really true for you? We're in 2024, you get to choose.
And Like a quote just came to me. Let love be the overgeneralization of the limitless.
I like that. I do love everyone. That's limitless.
We don't like everyone, and it's not a requirement to.
That's true. But I love everyone. Just, I'm gonna love you all the way over here because I don't need to interact with that. That is actually a mindset and a belief system.
It is.
Hmm.
I
I
mean,
can love you, but I can love you from a distance. I like that.
yeah.
And you can love yourself unconditionally without limitations.
Or overgeneralizing.
Yeah.
And if you do, don't get mental after hearing this. You're because you're going to. I know you're going to. I know, and I'm talking to you, the viewers. You're going to get mental, kind of like when Diane gets mental about saying the word should, because now you're going to pay attention to every type of overgeneralization that comes
It's
out of you,
good.
and that's fine.
Yes.
That's fine. You're now aware of the
Yeah.
limitations that we have. And it doesn't sound like a limitation when you are, generalizing everyone, everywhere, all the time, always, never. That doesn't sound like a generalization or that, something to get all mental about, but you do
Yes.
because you're already mental when you say them.
So,
Everyone believes this. No, that's not true. You know it, shush.
yeah. Oh, one of my favorites. Everyone hates me. That's definitely not true.
Yeah. Because if those words fall on somebody's
Mhm.
ears and they have the patience to continue to stand there and they have the compassion to continue to stand there or stay on the phone or continue in the chat, whichever the case is of communication. Not true. No one hears me. Did I become deaf?
Right.
No one listens.
So instead of saying that, say with whatever the circumstances in that very moment, I am feeling unheard and misunderstood. May I clarify and give more context? That's something to try.
It's also authentic.
It's also an answer. Yeah.
It's authentic
Hmm.
because when you feel unheard, when you feel unseen, then you start to overgeneralize.
Hmm.
And then you limit yourself to who will.
Right.
I feel so isolated. Well,
Why are
now
you
I'm by
isolating
myself. What are you
yourself?
doing about it? You know?
Right. Right. And now I'm not going to say there's not times in our lives where, you just sometimes you just got to face stuff on your own, on your own 2 feet kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Understand you're still not alone. You're
Yeah.
still not alone. You still have a team with you, whether here or elsewhere. You still have a team with you. Don't choose to be alone. That's the mindset shift. I'm not alone. I'm choosing to give myself some isolation space to recalibrate. That's a difference. It's a big difference.
Right.
And it feels a lot less lonely because I feel like when you're like, oh, nobody this, nobody that, you create this sense of loneliness and longing and neediness in you that you don't need to because your needs can be met if you choose to redirect and trust yourself to discern who is an accurate representation of a safe person.
Right.
Hmm.
At least in that moment.
Right. At least in that moment. Yep. And like I said, sometimes you are going to purposely isolate yourself because you got to go through it to get to it. That's fine.
Yeah.
Just be careful you're not making exaggeratory statements that are going to propagate isolation and loneliness that you're not trying to do.
Exactly. We have one comment from the chat. Hello, Miss D. Morrison. Thank you for tuning in. Love that you're here.
Hello.
One that can change it. No one can do it for you or force you to change it. And that's
100%.
totally true. And D, if you have a question or another that you'd like for us to address, please feel free. We still got a few more minutes before we sign off for the week.
This is
But
this is a good topic though, because I think folks aren't quite, sometimes they don't realize the ways in which they might be self-sabotaging. You know, how come
right,
I can't do this and how my, well, the language that you're using is the start and the mindset shift that needs to happen. So it is very important during the healing process to give yourself that grace and compassion.
right. And that Facebook post that I was talking about earlier, where the person had said that everyone is out to get me or against me or something. And I literally responded, everyone?
Mm. Hmm. Now,
Why we're talking about it tonight.
yeah, and
Because if you're going to post something like that now, something that I know is that there are some people in this world that will use overgeneralization to get attention. Perhaps we should dive into that for a little bit.
that still stems from a place of feeling unheard and misunderstood. That's the part that needs to be addressed within us. Are you giving the other person an opportunity to hear and understand, or to hear you and understand you, or are they just an audience who is hell-bent on not understanding you or hearing you because their own agenda is what needs to be pushed for themselves? So that's again a discernment thing. If you're not feeling heard or understood, is it relevant in that particular situation? Like, is it valid in that particular situation to them, to whoever that person is specifically? Or is it just you generally have been made to feel throughout multiple times in life like you are not heard or understood? So what indicator are they giving you that they don't understand them? Do they need more context? Do they need more clarification? Do they need a little further explanation? Like, discern in the moment who you're talking to. And if they need more information, sometimes it's just a matter of they need more. Nobody's a mind reader at all. We may be telepathic, but we're not mind, like to a certain degree or another. You know what I'm saying?
Even though I've been accused of being one, and I'm like, okay, let's test that. Nope, that's wrong. Cool. All right.
But generally speaking, we're not,
No.
that's not how we're supposed to be heard and understood. We need to express ourselves and communicate clearly. Any other chat stuff? I see you looking.
Yeah, I'm having to squint because I need a new prescription. All right. The questions I have really don't relate to ever, never, or things like that. Don't want to get off topic. We've already
Oh,
talked
please
about
do.
some of it. It's me personally and what I need to do with it. One thing that I was hearing while you were addressing on your end about what I just brought up is that when we say everyone, okay, what other people hear is an overgeneralized limitation. But the reality of the word, everyone I'm thinking about, everyone that this relates to, and the need, an internal need to not call people out directly in a social media setting. Because while, I mean, times it happens, I've seen it, I've watched it, and I'm just like, oh, I'm so glad not that person. And then there are times where it's an overgeneralization to try and get that person's attention passive aggressively, to try and change the behavior of what they're experiencing. Let me give you guys a little hint and a little tip. You cannot change someone else's behavior.
Mhm.
Can't. You can inspire, but you can't change
The,
it.
the way to inspire is to be it, embody it. So that's why I say maintain your authenticity and what is realistic for you and resonates with you,
Mm-hmm.
because that's what's inspiring. Your authenticity, your rawness, your realness, your ability to discern what's right for you and set boundaries and speak up for yourself respectfully, all that stuff.
And
That
instead of making yourself look like the type of person that you don't want other people to think that you are. I mean, now granted, I have posted some really passive aggressive things on social media because I was angry and I wanted to educate other people about what I was angry about. I did it last week. Am I ashamed of it? No. Do I feel that that was a limiting belief of mine? No. Did I overgeneralize? No. However, I don't know where I was going with that, but it had to be said. But instead of just venting, God, I wish some people, there you go, some, because it's not everyone,
Mhm.
a few, many, narrow it down so that you can limit the limited. Because there's again, in the promo, when we have all these limitations and limiting beliefs, there's a void somewhere that we're trying to fill, but don't know how because we're so stuck in these limitations.
Mhm.
And I'm also trying to get guidance on how to actually address and answer Dee's question about never and ever, and how does she use that to
So,
herself.
um, I mean, I still use the words. It's not like I don't use the words, but like, I use it for exciting stuff. Like, oh my God, I never imagined the sunset could look like that. Like, wow.
Because you honestly haven't.
Exactly. So like, I still use the words. I'm using them in a context that's not defamatory towards myself or anyone else, or limiting myself or anyone else in that matter. So it's more used in a positive sense. Like, this is the best cake I've ever had.
Right.
It's very true in some circumstances.
Right.
So just again, is it true? Is it relevant and kind? You can certainly use those words if it's true, relevant, and kind.
Mm-hmm.
So that's
Because
fine.
everyone has a heart.
Yes. They may not have compassion though. Not everyone has compassion. There's some that have to learn it. There's some.
Everyone has a consciousness. Everyone has thought.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
When you address everyone, those things are always true.
Right.
Because not everyone has 10 toes.
Mm-hmm.
Not everyone can walk. But everyone
Right.
has thought. Everyone has a consciousness.
Yes.
Everyone has a mind.
And for that, I am grateful for everyone. Whether I like you or not is a different story.
He uses the
I am
proper
grateful for
members all the
everyone.
time.
Oh, we are.
Oh, yeah. I've never heard that song sung that way. Truth, positive.
Yes.
No one has ever done that for me. Truth,
Mm-hmm.
positive.
Right. I haven't ever felt this way before. Could be true.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, that can also be on the opposite, but still true and not limiting, where no
Exactly.
one has ever hurt me that way before.
Yeah. And it's still true.
And it's still true. It's
Yeah.
not limiting. It is
Right.
truth. Like she said, is it true? Is it relevant? Is it kind?
Yeah. Yep.
And if it doesn't limit you, catch yourself using it so that you can become limitless.
Mm-hmm.
You'll feel lighter. You won't feel like the entire world is on your shoulders, that you're isolated in a bubble that no one can get to. Oh, there it is.
Mm-hmm. You know
Somebody will
what?
come and pop that bubble and say, yo,
Yeah.
I had that happen to me recently too, because I fell into that overgeneralization of feeling like nobody was around.
Mm-hmm.
And then a buddy of mine said, oh, you can call me now, because I had acted out. I had allowed the limiting beliefs that I had alter my personality enough
Mm-hmm.
that I was kind of a dick.
So when we have these limiting beliefs and it's involving other people, ask yourself, how would it make them feel to hear me say that? Is that like basically dismissing the effort and the energy that they've already put into me?
Mm-hmm.
So think of the other side and how your words are going to affect them.
Yes. And if somebody calls you out on it, don't retaliate, because they hear you. If somebody calls you out, hey, you're overgeneralizing, I'm not everyone. It's not meant to be passive aggressive dig. It's meant to be, I'm here to help. And not everybody's going to type all of that,
Mm-hmm.
especially if they don't want to embarrass you or to create a sense of shame. They're just going to be like, hey, what? They hear you.
Yeah,
That's an olive branch. Reach out.
right.
Because you're only limiting yourself if you get angry because they didn't say the exact thing that you expected them to.
Oh, there's those expectations popping up again. Woo!
Ooh. Our expectations also are stemmed from our limiting beliefs.
They're tied together.
They really are.
Yep. Overgeneralizations are tied to judgments, expectations, unrealistic, thought patterns and behaviors that just really are unrealistic if you sit down and rationalize them. Inauthentic, dismissive of yourself and your needs. So sometimes overgeneralizations are, very dismissive of not just other people around you, but yourself.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And whenever there's anything negative that you have to say, and use the word never, remember this quote. I don't know who it's from. Maybe I made it up too. I don't know. But I've been saying it for years. Never say never, because never always ends.
Yes. That's great. Oh my God, we're almost at an hour too.
We're almost at an hour. Speaking of ending. But that's kind of what made me think of it. It was like, oh,
It's a
we're
great
almost over.
segue.
But seriously, never always ends.
Mm-hmm.
There is no such thing as permanence.
Marie needs to go.
And like I said, those three, and they tie into everything.
They really do. They really do.
Mind, consciousness, and thought. Those are the only three that everyone, everywhere has. Otherwise, they're acting on limiting beliefs.
Yes.
So when you're dealing with that void, fill it with the positive. Give yourself permission to not be a burden. Give yourself permission to trust that someone's there.
Yeah.
Give yourself the opportunity to see things differently.
Yeah.
Open up the love to overgeneralize the limitless.
Remember, we are all limitless beings of infinite potential. We just have to acknowledge that and become it authentically.
Yes. And to everyone who watches the replay on this, thank you, Dee, for being live. And
Thank you.
anyone else who came in and out during the broadcast, thank you so much for tuning in. We're going to go ahead and give it an end for this week. Don't know what the topic is next week, but we'll come up with it and
We'll
let
find out.
you know. And I'll do some kind of creative video to let you know what it is. But take care of you. Love you. We love you.
We do.
And we love that you join us each and every
Thank you.
and watch the replay. If you have any questions or topics that you'd like to submit, please leave them in the comments. And I'll also provide the links for Diane if you would like to reach out to her and work with her directly. And you can reach out to me as well. I have a few links that you can use and get in touch with either one of us. Until then, make it a great week. Take care of yourself. Keep going.
Everything he said, ditto. Love yourself. Don't limit yourself.